Have you ever met people who seem absolutely invulnerable? Those who remain calm when chaos rages around them? Who smile in the face of criticism and don't flinch before failure? Imagine, two people receive the same brutal layoff. The first cries all night, cursing fate and sinking into depression. The second, thanks for the liberation and is already planning new opportunities. What's the difference? Both face the same reality, but live in completely different worlds. These invulnerable ones don't possess superpowers. They don't have a magical shield from life's blows. Their secret is much deeper and more accessible than it seems. They've discovered a truth that forever changes the rules of the game. Chapter 2. The Slavery of Reactions. Most people live like automatons. Someone cuts you off on the road. Flash of rage. A colleague makes a snide comment. Day ruined. A stranger looks at you wrong. Self-esteem crashes. We've become prisoners of our own reactions. Every day is an endless chain. Stimulus reaction, stimulus reaction. We dance to someone else's tune, not realizing we've handed over the conductor's baton. But here's the paradox. We think we're reacting to reality. Actually, we're reacting to ghosts of our own mind. That driver didn't ruin your mood. You chose to let it be ruined. That criticism didn't wound you. You allowed the words to find an old, unhealed wound. Recognizing this fact is the first step to liberation. When you understand that you create your own suffering, the path to ending it opens up. Chapter 3. The Law of Vulnerable Spots. Carl Jung discovered a revolutionary principle. Nothing can hurt a person unless it finds an echo within them. Imagine yourself as an impregnable fortress. Enemies attack, but arrows bounce off the walls. However, there are secret passages. Your unhealed wounds, suppressed fears, rejected parts of personality. When someone calls you a failure and it triggers an emotional storm, the problem isn't in the words. The problem is that deep inside you fear it might be true. When being ignored hurts, it means you depend on others' attention. When criticism throws you off balance, it means your self-esteem stands on shaky ground. Emotional triggers aren't a curse. They're a treasure map pointing to those parts of your soul that need healing. Every painful reaction says, something here requires attention. Masters of emotional invulnerability don't avoid these signals. They study them, heal them, and transform vulnerabilities into strength. Chapter 4. The Great Paradox of Control. Here's the cruelest irony of human existence. The more desperately we try to control the world, the more it controls us. You desperately want to be respected? Congratulations. Now every person has power over your mood. Dream of a specific outcome? Excellent. Now you're a slave to circumstances. Demand fairness from life? Welcome to the club of the eternally disappointed. It's like trying to catch water with your hands. The tighter you clench your fists, the faster it flows through your fingers. Modern neuroscience confirms, the brain in a state of desperate control works against itself. Stress blocks creative centers, fear narrows perception, attachment to results creates self-sabotage. But there's good news. As soon as you stop clenching your fists, water flows into your palms by itself. Chapter 5. The Illusion of a Hostile World. Here's the shocking truth. The world is neither good nor evil. It's neutral. Rain doesn't try to ruin your picnic. It just falls. Your boss isn't trying to destroy your life. They're just acting according to their motives. Even that rude person in line isn't personally against you. They're just living their own drama. The world is a giant screen onto which we project the contents of our inner cinema. If there's fear inside, the world seems threatening. If there's anger inside, enemies are everywhere. If there's love inside, friends are everywhere. Two people look at the same cloud. One sees a dragon ready to attack. Another sees a fluffy lamb. The cloud hasn't changed. The perception has changed. When you understand that you're reacting not to the world but to your own interpretation of the world, a revolution of consciousness occurs. You stop being a victim of circumstances and become their creator. Chapter 6. The Secret Puppeteers of the Subconscious. Imagine an iceberg. The visible part is your conscious behavior, but 90% is hidden underwater. This is your unconscious, and it's precisely this invisible part that controls your life. Jung discovered, until a person becomes aware of the contents of their unconscious, it will control them like a puppet. You think you're making conscious decisions, but actually, you're dancing to the dictates of childhood traumas, parental programs, and suppressed emotions. Why do you choose toxic partners? Why do you sabotage success on the threshold of victory? Why do you repeat the same mistakes? Because the unconscious plays old records and you think it's your choice. But there's a way to break free from this captivity. When the hidden becomes visible, the automatic becomes conscious. The puppet becomes the puppeteer of their own life. Chapter 7, The Magic of Letting Go. And now the most amazing discovery. When you stop desperately wanting to get something, it comes by itself. This isn't mysticism, it's psychology and neuroscience. When the brain is obsessed with a goal, it works in tunnel vision mode, missing many opportunities. Desperate need radiates energy of scarcity, which people feel intuitively and from which they distance themselves. Someone who desperately seeks love repels potential partners with their neediness. Someone who panics about being fired unconsciously sabotages their work. Someone who desperately clings to money blocks its flow. But look at the opposite. When a person is internally free from the outcome, they act with clarity and confidence. They're attractive because they're self-sufficient. They're effective because they're not constrained by fear of failure. Letting go isn't passivity, it's action from a position of strength, not weakness. Chapter 8. The Architecture of an Invulnerable Mind. Invulnerability begins with a simple but revolutionary realization. You are not your thoughts, not your emotions, not your reactions. You are the consciousness that observes them. Imagine yourself as the director of a film called Your Life. Thoughts and emotions are actors on stage. Before you identified with each character, experienced each drama as your own, now you realize, you're the director observing the performance. When someone tries to provoke you, the observer activates, "Interesting, this person is trying to trigger anger in me. I feel irritation rising, but I'm not the irritation, I'm the one observing it." This practice reprograms the brain. Neural pathways of reactivity weaken, while connections of awareness strengthen. Over time, calmness becomes your natural state. Chapter 9. The Alchemy of Shadow Work. Your shadow is everything you've rejected in yourself. The anger you don't allow yourself to feel, the ambitions you consider shameful, the fears you hide from the world. But here's the paradox. The more you suppress parts of yourself, the more power they gain. Unaccepted anger becomes chronic irritation. Suppressed sexuality becomes obsession. Rejected sadness transforms into depression. Shadow work isn't fighting your dark sides, but integrating them. When you accept your capacity for anger, you stop fearing others' aggression. When you accept your vulnerability, criticism loses its sting. When you accept your imperfection, others' opinions stop having power. A whole person is invulnerable because there are no rejected parts through which they can be wounded. Chapter 10. The Mastery of Emotional Detachment. Emotional detachment isn't turning into a robot, it's gaining inner freedom of choice. Instead of automatic reactions, conscious responses. Imagine a martial arts master. They see every opponent strike but don't lose balance. They react precisely and effectively, but without emotional involvement. Their strength lies in calmness. So too with the emotional master. They feel all emotions but don't become their slave. Anger informs them about boundary violations but doesn't blind them. Fear warns of danger but doesn't paralyze. Sadness speaks of loss but doesn't drag them into depression. When emotions become information rather than commands for action, you gain true power. You act not from reaction but from wisdom. Others intuitively sense this change. They can no longer push your buttons because there are no more buttons. There's only a centered, conscious being who chooses their reactions. Conclusion. The path to invulnerability. The path to true invulnerability doesn't require changing the world. It requires changing how you look at the world. You don't need to avoid conflicts. You need to stop taking them to heart. You don't need to control people. You need to learn to control your reactions to them. This path isn't easy, but it's the only one leading to genuine freedom. Every day gives you hundreds of opportunities to practice. Choosing calmness instead of reaction, observation instead of involvement, wisdom instead of impulse. Remember, you're not a victim of circumstances. You're their creator. And once you truly understand this, the world will stop being your jailer and become your teacher. Invulnerability awaits. All that remains is to reach out and take what has always belonged to you by right.